Okay, so now we follow on to that video I posted yesterday about the apparent attempt to take down all miraculous events in nature, just to stop us from believing in the Almighty, to stop us from believing that there's something more powerful than those who rule over Earth at the present moment in time, where somebody saw a sand dog and attacked it to disperse it. Basically, the following, because I've been looking at that after I stopped laughing, um, I've put my scientific hat on, and I've noticed I went through the whole process and ran simulations in my head. So if somebody would go around trying to disperse every cloud that's producing the sand dog effect, then you could say if somebody did try and remove randomness from nature, where would they get undone? Yeah. So then I looked at all the different loading that every physical device experiences, and a physical object. Let me choose a physical object. Let's say a deck of playing cards there. Yeah. This is a physical object, right? So it experiences loading in terms of temperature change. So when it gets hot, when it gets cold, that's thermal loading. Yeah. So it will, when it gets cold, suppose it will lose energy, and the surface of the card should shrink slightly. You would expect it to shrink when it loses energy and becomes more compact. And if it gains energy, it expands a bit. So it can go through compaction, expansion, compaction, expansion. That would lead to wear and tear, creep, and all kinds of things, and it will fail that way. But there's another type of loading that people seldom understand, and and as far as I'm aware, I haven't really done the background research, but please do. But obviously, because of what I saw 2 days ago, if this is someone who thinks he can hunt down random events and eradicate them, I would have thought that he wouldn't have thought about what I'm going to tell you now. Basically, what I want to consider is gravitational loading, gravitational field loading. Now, the gravitational field strength around the Earth, yeah, is not constant. There are some places on the surface of the Earth where it's stronger than other places. So the gravitational field also fluctuates. So if something experiences less of a gravitational field, it's gonna need to float away more, and if it experiences more, it's gonna need to compact itself more in the y direction. So it will be kind of uh, elongating and shrinking, to a below microscopic level, I suppose. That's why you can't detect it. So there's something called gravitational loading. Now, in the film Matrix, they say for everything they say there to work, someone would have had to have scorched the sky so that we can't see the sun, because the sun loads things with temperature. But then, with that concept, obviously they had to come up with that. So that's what makes it more of a scientific, sci-fi movie, scientific fiction movie, because you can't scorch the sky. They didn't tell us how it was done, because you can't physically do that. And even if you did, you can't eliminate the effects from the sun on Earth. So the gravitational field on Earth is affected by the moon and the sun. The tides are pulled and pushed by the moon. So even physical objects, this is why astrology works, because when you're born, the gravity from around the universe affects you, your ears, and so it is affecting you. So you can eliminate thermal loading, mechanical loading, you can put something in a vacuum, but gravitational loading, yeah, can still cause displacements, displacement fluctuations that will cause the physical object to fail. Yeah. Even mountains fail. Even mountains get loaded and fail. But they experience loading of a more mechanical sense, where water erosion and all kinds of things. But there would be I'm sure there would be physical features on the planet that well, there's got to, if you're in a place where there's no wind, there's no water, and it's just still dead still, even the physical features will start to experience some kind of loading. And I'm sure when you go to Mars and you start seeing physical features that have been loaded somehow, if you eliminate the wind effects and the water effects, you could still see that there is some major loading which can't be explained. This might be due to gravitational loading, gravitational field loading. This is something I'm just making up. I don't even think they've investigated it. They have studied the effects of gravity loading by way of gravity on physical objects. Yeah, you mark down the date when I've said this. I'm pretty sure after this, someone's going to come up with research to investigate whether gravity loading due to gravity has an effect on physical objects over a long term. So you cannot build anything indestructible when gravity is around. You're going to have to find a spot in the universe that's not affected by electromagnetism or gravity, and that's very impossible because stars gravitational pull, yeah, extends miles away from the actual star itself. So it's very hard to find a spot in the universe that is not affected by a star's electromagnetic field or a star's gravitational field. Yeah, it's very, very rare to find a place that's either not affected by a star from there or a star from there. Yeah, so there's no place really in the universe where there's no gravitational field fluctuation. Yeah, so you can't, even if you did design an indestructible device, you have to put it somewhere where there's no gravity. Otherwise, eventually, the gravitational loading will lead to its failure. Yeah, so you can never eliminate. And when things fail, like if somebody tells you we've considered all the loading, but we know that after even your laptops, after 5 years, they fail for some reason. So we considered all the loading due to gravity, whatever, but after 500 years, it's a lottery. It comes down to a random process. After 500 years, they'll give it its life. That's the life expectancy of the device. After 500 years, it's a lottery. It's a random event. It could break down after 501. It could break down after 600. You never know. It's a lottery. It's a random process. Everything succumbs to randomness. Everything has a lifespan, and then it succumbs to randomness. Nothing escapes random death. Yeah, eventually it dies unexpectedly after a certain amount of time. We have lifespan and random death. You can't escape that. You can't even chase it. Even science is resigned to it. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Gravitational field loading on physical devices is the reason why man can never really take out God.